XML was first introduced back in the 90s, I guess it was, mid to late 90s. And we were told back then that it was going to take over and become the standard for formatting data and transferring data. And this prediction really turned out in a big way. So in this video, I want to talk to you how you can, first of all, if you're new to this, just understand XML. And if you've been around a while, we'll just kind of go over some basics. And then we're going to spend 3 or 4 videos talking about how you can output XML from queries. Now, XML is a big world, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But for now, let's take a simple example here. Notice this is a table. Now, databases that we work with store data in a relational format. And we're used to seeing this. We have a table here, and we have column names, first name, last name, and age. Then we have rows in that table. And by putting data into these rows, positionally into the appropriate columns, we can make a complete thought that's called a row. And these things are very natural and normal to us to read. Well, this is the XML representation of the data that's in this table. Notice this is a hierarchical layout. We have a tag, an open tag here, a start tag called employees, and an ending tag. Notice all XML ending tags have the / at the beginning, and this closes it. And so this is basically a container for other things. Starting right here, notice employee, not plural. This is plural up here. This is the name of the table. This is the row name. So we have a row here, first name Harry, last name Smith, age 23. And notice how the data itself is inside an opening and closing tag that describes that data. Then we have a new row, first name Angela, last name James, age 34. And you can see how that corresponds over here. XML is very readable. It is basically just hierarchical data represented in a text format, and we can parse it and do all sorts of cool things with it. Now, XML stands for the Extensible Markup Language. The whole idea is to format data in a human-readable and, at the same time, machine-readable hierarchical structure. It's kind of neat to have data in databases and tables, but it gets kind of tricky to pass that data around between systems and between applications. XML has become the standard format for data for just that reason. Now, there are many different XML-based languages, and you see all kinds of things now that don't necessarily say XML, but they've got this format. There's a lot of different languages, functionalities, protocols, whatever you want to call them. Not really protocols, but you'll see them referred to that way. Things like RSS that we use on the internet all the time. SOAP, XHTML, it just goes on and on. There's a lot of different things out there. One other thing you need to understand about XML is it is case sensitive. And so once you kind of start to wade out into the world of XML and start to really work with things like XPath and XQueries and all kinds of things, you're going to find XML is case sensitive where Transact SQL is not. Now, there are a few XML terms you need to be familiar with because you're going to run into these all the time. So let's just make sure that we all know exactly what we're talking about here and understand the same thing. First of all, an XML tag is a markup construct that begins and ends with what we would call the less than and greater than symbols right here. Okay, so less than and a greater than symbol. This is also known as a start tag, and this would be an example of a start tag. Then there's an end tag, and this is a markup construct beginning with the less than and the /, and this is what an end tag looks like. And this is one of the basics of XML because when we have a start tag and an end tag, we then are establishing a hierarchy and other tags can go inside these. And so with a well-formed XML document, anything inside the employees tag would have to open and close. It couldn't close outside the employees tag. It has to be completely encapsulated within there. Next up is the element. And when you hear the term element, they're talking about a construct that begins with the start tag and ends with a matching end tag. And so this would be an element. Notice first name, Bob, and then / first name. So that's an XML element. Now, attributes have long been something to discuss and fight about and disagree on, and it's just a data structure formatting situation. We have these no matter what we're working with, XML or relational or whatever. And this is a name-value pair that can reside inside a start tag. So notice, for employee Bob Smith, instead of just having employee, we also want to mention that Bob is at pay grade 5. And so we can use an attribute, and that is what pay grade 5 is right here. This is an attribute, and notice it is inside the opening or the start employee tag. And we still use the standard close tag, but this describes a property, if you will, of this particular data right here. And so that's called an attribute. Now there's a lot more to know about XML. If you're brand new to this, don't let it intimidate you, but just kind of go out there and start to wade a little deeper, look at various XML things and books online. I'm going to show you some things and direct you to some things. But XML is a big world. It's getting bigger. It has become the standard for moving data around, for trading data between systems, and even storing data and representing data. So that's the basics on XML. Now over the next, 3 or 4 videos, we're going to talk about how we can output XML directly from SQL Server. Some really cool stuff to see. Then we'll look at some examples of the basic ways to do this.